If you're new to CNC and you want to create your first sign using Vcarve, then this video is for you. It'll show you a basic design using Vcarve, creating G-code and basically setting it ready to run on your machine. The sign we're going to create is a basic house sign, which in my case is on oak, but I would recommend maybe using some MDF or some pine to start you off. Using Vcarve software, once you have mastered the basics of Vcarve, you'll soon be designing and creating your own projects. Let's get started. So the first thing to do is to open up Vcarve. In this case it's Vcarve Pro and it's version 10.515. So if you look on the left hand side where it says Start Tasks, the first one is Create a New File. So we click on that and now we've got our job set up, which is basically the size of your project. So it's a single-sided, then we've got job size. In my case we're going to do a sign 11 inches by 5.5 and it's 3/4 of an inch, and you can do inches or millimeters, whichever you prefer. And we're setting the 0 position to the surface, and the datum point is we can either have it in the center or you can have it top right, but I always like bottom left, just because that's what I would use, but you could, whatever's convenient for you. It's standard fastest. You can choose higher quality, but for this it'll be fine. And now the your material, and I'm using a light oak, and then you just click OK. So that's basically the size of our piece of wood that we're going to carve on, and now we're going to give it an edge with a slight curve on the corners, and then basically type the text in the middle, and then that's basically all we're going to do. So up the top on the left we're looking for a square, so create vectors. It's the third one in. You click on that, take your cursor to the top corner of your workspace, hold the cursor down, your mouse, hold it down and drag it to the far corner, and you can see it's gone pink all the way around, means it's active. So we can either have a square edge, which is what we got there, or you can have a curved edge on the inside, and you set that, which then each time you do it you apply. But if you wanted a big edge, we changed that to something like 2 inches or 2.5 inches, and then do apply, then you get a really large curve, and maybe that's what you want. But I think for the small sign that I'm doing, just the corners curved off would be nice. So 0.5, apply, and there we are. That does the outside of the perimeter of. So just click close. Now the next thing we want to do, we click away, so you can see the pink all the way around. If we click away in the screen somewhere, it's gone black. That means it's not active. And if we click on the line again, it's gone pink again. So we want to deactivate it at the moment. And now we're going to add some text. So again, create vectors, third one down, you can see the T, it says draw text, and you click on that, and now at the top you type in what you want. So I'll just do that. So you put in whatever name you want for your sign, and you can see, looking at the screen, it's sort of a bit all over the place, but don't worry about that at the moment. So then we can just choose the type of text we want, and there's a fonts you just drop down this little arrow here and you choose whatever you want. I'm going to keep it at Do City Graphics, and that looks quite nice. It comes out quite well as well. So, and then you just click close. Now to centralize this, you can either highlight it, which click it twice, and then you'll see these little corners. If you go to the center, you can just drag it around wherever you want. So you can estimate, you know, there's about half if that's where you want it, but you can't be, you know, it'll be a lot of fiddling around. So an easy way to centralize this is if you go over to transformation, and there's this one here on the right there. You just click on that, and then you can choose how you want to centralize it. If you go to the top, it's the middle one, and when I click it, you'll see it move slightly, and that's because I put it exactly where we wanted it. If I can move it, there, we'll try that. If I click on it again, there, and it puts it in position. And that's it. So if you're happy with the size of the text and its layout, you can just click close. And again, it's active when it's got a pink color to it, and if we click away from it, it's gone black. So the next stage is we've got to do the toolpaths. And the top left, there's a little arrow up here, switch to toolpath. You click on that, and then all the icons that you need for setting this up are on the right hand side now. And if you want to go back to the design, at the top right, the same little arrow, and it'll flip you back. So you can just go back and forth. So the first thing we want to do is we'll do it doesn't really matter which way you do it, but the outside perimeter is basically going to be an end mill, and it's just going to cut through all the way and just shape it. So for that, we want, on the right hand side, we want this profile toolpath. So you just click on that, and then we've got the cutting depth is the depth of your wood. So mine was 0.75, and I would probably make that, because it might not cut, you want it to cut all the way through, and so I would probably make that 0.77, and that should just clear all the way through. Now we've got to choose, just below that, we've got to choose the tool that we're going to use. So if we click select, and you'll have all your tool bits that you've got. You might not have this many, or you could have more depending on what ones you've loaded. And I want an end mill, and I've got a 3mm here, and it'll do a cutting depth of 32mm in this one. You've got to make sure that it's long enough if you're using 3/4 inch timber, otherwise it just won't cut all the way through, and it'll start burning on your router. So this one's fine. All the settings are all okay, you don't need to change any of these. So at the bottom we just tick select, and that's your tool selected. Now the next main section is the machine vectors. We can go around the outside or the inside. Well, I like to do the inside because I've measured this perfect. If your wood's larger, if you actually got a piece of cut wood larger, then obviously you could do the outside. But if this wood, I know my piece is pretty accurate to these measurements, so I'm going to use the inside, and it'll just cut all the way on the inside of the pink line. So that's okay. We don't need to ramp plunge. Now, adding tabs, if you're using a large piece of wood and it's not fixed, I usually use tape with super glue, and it just holds it nicely and doesn't move at all. But if you've got clamps, you probably need a slightly larger piece of wood than this, because otherwise you can have trouble clamping it. But if you want to add tabs, you click on the tabs, edit tabs, and on your mouse here you see the cross at the top here. When you put the cross on the edge, so if you wanted one there, every time you click on them it'll add one there, one at the bottom, and one on the front. And you can add as many or as few as you want. I'd keep them away from the corners, because when you cut them, when you're finished, it's easier to sand any rough bits than trying to do it on the corner. Then you just click OK, and now all you got to do is click calculate at the bottom, and it'll work out the toolpath, and it'll ask you a warning saying that the tool is going to cut all the way through the wood, which is what you want. But if you were doing the letters, obviously, and that came up, you would be able to make some adjustments. But in this case, this is what we want, so we can click OK. And here you can see the little nodules there. We've tabs that we've kept. You can see them both sides. Can you see them on the end? There we go. You can see them there, and there's 4 of them, and you can see the wood is you see the circumference of the timber. So that's our profile 1, and if you wanted to label that, you can just right click, rename, and you can call it end mill, just to give it a name that means something. So that's done. Now we want to do the lettering. So again, we go back to our drawing tools, make sure it's back onto 2D, which is at the top, unclick the pink surround, because we don't want that anymore, and click on the lettering, and here you can see all the lettering's gone pink. So then we go back to the toolpath section, and I want to close this box. Now this time I'm going to use a Vcarve, a V-bit. So here you can see you want the little box with the V on it, and select. Now if you look here, there's no depth how deep we're going to go. It's because the Vcarve, the actual V-bit rather, does it automatic, so you don't have to put anything in there. You can change it, but you don't need to for most items. So we're going to select the bit. We're going to use a 60 degree bit there, and everything's set there. Generally the settings are okay. You can adjust them with experience, and then we click select. So now we've got the bit selected. Everything else is set because it's a V-bit, and then we go down to calculate, and here you can see where it's going to cut everything out. And if I tilt that up slightly, again you can see how it's going to look. And if I just go to preview selected toolpath here, there, it won't actually come out green if anyone's wondering. It's just for shading. And then if I tilt it, you can see it's come out quite nicely. And it's a good way of checking that all the lettering is going to come out perfect, because this is how it should come out. But sometimes you get bits missing, and it's either because your bit's too big or too small, and you'll need to readjust it. But for this lettering and this size, you can see it's perfect. Now we've got on the toolpaths on the side here, you can see we've got Vcarve. Well, I'll leave it because I know now that that's V-bit. So all we have to do is, if we click on them both, you can see them both showing, and then a preview shows it again. So at the moment all we need to do is close the box on the right, and then we need to save. So all we have to do now is save our toolpaths. And so we've got the end mill and we've got the Vcarve 1 files. So if we just check at the top here, the first three, we want this third one down, which is visible toolpaths to multiple files. So we want individual files because you've got to run them separate, because we've got an end mill and a VBit. So then we just go to save and then put it into a folder where you know where it is. I've set this one up, house sign, and then click on save, and that's it, it's done. Now if I pull up the folder, you can see there are two files which are the same as these two toolpaths we've got down the bottom here. So if I open one, let's do the end mill first. I've opened them up using Open Build Controller, and you can see the circumference of our piece that we're going to mill first. Obviously you need to connect your machine. If I open up the other one, this will be the text of our sign. Fingers crossed, and there we are. Again connect, and then just run it, remembering to change from an end mill to a VBit for the different stages of the sign. I hope you have found this helpful. If you make a sign, put a photo in the comments below. It would be great to see them. Thank you for watching.